Well, it's been a couple of weeks. Most of you know that I have had to take some time away from the podcast due to some family situations that are going on with me. And I appreciate everybody that has been wishing for good health for me and my wife. And it's great to be back for an emergency podcast because the Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl for the third year in a row. Taylor, what's going on, buddy?
It's insane. I joked about you before we hit record that we're like seasoned vets at this, which is true, but it doesn't get any like less freak out, less big deal. Like this is crazy what we just watched.
Pal, I mean, this in some ways was the craziest one of them all. I don't think I really appreciated the stakes. I mean, we've been talking about the three-peat since the clock hit zero in last year's Super Bowl. The Chiefs were talking about it on the podium, and we have been talking about it ever since then. It didn't really hit me until the first game kicked off against the Texans, but that
Mhm.
was, I mean, it was a close game in the fourth quarter, but you knew the Chiefs were going to take care of business against the Texans. They've never lost in the divisional round.
Yeah.
It had to be it had to be a team like this to even feel alive, to really feel like something was on the line here. And whatever happened in this game was going to be historical. It was either going to be the Bills' first chance to play for a Super Bowl in 30 years since they went to four straight and lost all four of them, or an NFL team was going to have the opportunity to play for the first three-peat. And yes, miss me with the Green Bay Packers nonsense. This is the first three-peat
Yeah.
ever in the history of the NFL. NFL championships in the pre-Super Bowl era do not count. This is
No.
the first time an NFL team has played for a chance to three-peat ever. Chiefs have already made history tonight. And I mean, we had to know that the game was going to end like this, that
Yeah,
it was
for sure.
going to come down to the wire, that it was going to come down to the end of it. I really thought the Chiefs were going to blow this game. I thought they were going to blow this game. I mean, the third quarter was probably the worst I have felt since the Bengals loss in the
Mm.
AFC Championship game. I don't know. I mean, that's probably the worst I felt watching a Chiefs game since the last time the Chiefs lost in the playoffs.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Which is not
and
very
uh,
often.
and here we are.
It was it's such a roller coaster to be a Chiefs fan, and I said this last week with Randy. I've said this before, I think with you. The worst 3 hours of the week as a Chiefs fan are during the game, right? They
Yeah.
are
Oh,
excruciating.
100%.
It is stress and horror and all the things that come with. But it's a privilege to go through those emotions. It really is. Many NFL franchises and fans have never felt the despair that we feel when we're watching the Chiefs. Like because it doesn't mean anything. Their games don't matter. They really don't. And for the majority of your and I's life as Chiefs fans, our games did not matter. You have to reach this peak of the mountain before these games you really feel the weight of history. And this game was all of that and more. The Chiefs won their 18th or their 17th game of the season, including the regular season, which is the second most wins in any season in NFL history. 18 is, of course, the record by the 85 Bears, the 84 Niners, and the 07 Patriots. So the Chiefs have a chance to join those teams as the only teams that have ever won 18. It's the historic significance of this, their ninth straight playoff win, which is insanity. And
Yep.
anyone that wants to quote the Tom Brady 10 playoff wins in a row missed me with that because he missed the playoffs in the middle of there. You
Right. Right.
cannot have this is nine in a row in 3 years. It's stupid. It's one of those things that I always remember thinking about when I grew up and I would read about big time old dynasties and stuff like that, like the Boston Celtics. By the way, didn't have very many teams in the NBA when they did
Yeah.
all
There are
that.
like eight teams in
Um,
there.
the UCLA Bruins who won seven in a row and 9 out of 10 or whatever it is, I forget the number, but and that was like it's a different the 60s and 70s and all that stuff. That's ancient history. Like you said about the Packers, it's a different sport. It's not this. This is free agency. This is the draft. This is parity. This is absolutely built to
The salary
prevent
cap.
dynasties.
Yeah. I
Salary
mean,
cap. I mean, it's
right.
it's a salary cap league should never have a team play for three Super Bowls in a row, let alone win the first two and go back to a third. I can't believe it. I still can't believe it. I'm in shock.
There are so many historical elements to this game. You already listed some of them off, but Patrick Mahomes becomes the first quarterback to beat another quarterback four times in the playoffs
Yeah,
and
ever.
did
Yep.
it four times in 5 years over Josh Allen, who might be
Yeah,
probably is the second best quarterback in the NFL.
yes,
And
agreed. I mean, it
he
has to
did
be.
it. He did it in this game with a 99th percentile game for him in terms of dropback success rate. This per Shio Kapati at the Ringer, this is the highest dropback success rate of Mahomes' entire career. It's a 99th percentile game in dropback success rate ever in the history of the NFL. It's the best game in terms of dropback success rate in Patrick Mahomes' entire career.
Which is crazy.
He becomes, of course, the second winningest postseason quarterback of all time with 17 playoff wins. He passes Joe Montana. He's going to have an opportunity to play for a three-peat again. I mean, like this is it's so hard to wrap your brain around it
Hmm.
because there was so much on the line in this game, and we should talk about what happened in the game because that
Sure.
was maybe the craziest part of it all. Not just the stakes, but the Chiefs had a chance to completely take control of this game
Right.
at the
Several
end
times.
of at the end of the second quarter and then again at the start of the second half. And instead, they give up a touchdown late in the second quarter to let the Bills creep back within 5, and then they punt on their first drive out of
First
the
two.
second half, the first two drives out of the second half, and really lose control of this game. And it is, of course, a controversial, close fourth down call that gives the Chiefs the opportunity to get back into this game.
Yeah, you know, a lot's going to be said about this game, and there were a lot of dramatic, moments and calls and all that stuff. At the end of the day, what I was the most surprised by just watching the two teams play was how ineffective Buffalo was on short yardage. I thought
Yes.
that was an automatic first down for them. And in fact, I went on a Buffalo podcast last night, the Witty Not Funny sports guys that we've talked before every Chiefs Bills game. And they told me before I went on, like, dude, we're 0-3 when we talk to you. So you better not be the reason. But I mean, and I told them, they asked me what the biggest like matchup advantage was for the Buffalo Bills, and I said short yardage, and I didn't even think it was that close. That
Right.
Josh Allen and
Right.
the tush push has actually been a better version than the Philly tush push lately. They
28
have
of 30,
been,
I think it
yes,
was.
yes, right, and on. I believe the game said on short yardage in general, not even just the push, but just in general, they were 18 for their last 21, I think. So I mean, they had been on fire in short yardage, and I thought that they got a little too cute. There were several of their short yardage plays that were out of shotgun. And there were several that even when they did the push, they tried it on the first 2 point conversion and failed from the one. It was a fault, offsides that got them to go for two on the one. And then the fourth down, obviously, is another short yardage that they didn't. They were stopped. And that to me, the defensive line of the Chiefs being able to man up and not let now Buffalo ran the ball really, really well. They were a great running team all night. They did what they had to do, but when the plays mattered, when they absolutely had to do it, they had 147 yards on the ground, but they couldn't push it across in those short yardage, and that was the difference.
You know what's crazy too is I'm glad you called out the short yardage advantage, and I think you were right to mention that as the biggest advantage for these teams. These were two teams that were entering this game with historic turnover production in terms of
Correct.
taking care of the ball. The Chiefs obviously had protected the ball for 8 straight games, which was an NFL record, and the
Yeah.
Bills had the
R.I.P. that
best
streak.
turnover margin ever in NFL history, essentially for an entire
Not the best
year.
margin. They had the
But
best.
the
They
best,
had the fewest giveaways. They had the
that's right,
seventh
that's right.
best margin ever.
And the Chiefs lose the turnover battle in this game. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes coughs up the football, and the Chiefs lose the turnover battle 1-0. They lose the streak, and they still managed to win this game despite the fact that the Bills had the most insane fumble luck I've ever seen. They were
Yeah,
recovering
yeah.
literally every fumble that happened in this game, and there were like five
There were
fumbles in
five.
this
There
game.
were five.
And
There
the
were
Bills
literally five.
recovered
Josh Allen fumbled three times
the
and
Bills
recovered his
recovered
own fumble three times.
the Bills recovered all five fumbles in this game, and the Chiefs still win the game.
Yeah.
The fourth down play call, and obviously you know, we've gotten this deep into the emergency podcast without talking about the refs, which is great. I think like it's
Yeah.
going to be a little bit hard for people to point the finger at the officiating, which obviously
No, it's
like
not. It's happening all over.
I get it,
That's
but
all I
like
see.
it's not it's not actually I just don't think it's that controversial of a call compared to last
Which
week
call? Which
the
one?
the spot on the fourth down.
Yeah,
I
I agree with that. Yeah.
I think I mean I think like what calls are they complaining about in this game? Like
So
what is the call that is rigged in the Chiefs' favor?
So I have seen, let me actually just pull this up because they just replied to me with this big long list, and a lot of it was dumb, but some of it was understandable. Um, One thing that was the big there was for the Chiefs, there was that false start that they called on the Chiefs, even though Ed Oliver jumped
Oh yeah,
the,
that was
which
ridiculous.
was, and there was a
And
missed
we punted on that drive, so
punted on that drive, missed a face mask on
Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Yep.
But here's the play. Uh, Not a single holding call on them, which was almost when they held almost every play. That's not one. Worthy
Yeah.
wasn't close. Oh, the Worthy catch, the Worthy catch. So that's the
Yeah.
one
Okay.
where I saw it as, I mean, it was a crazy play. First of all,
It
you don't
was
see
crazy. It was
a
crazy.
guy jump up. I mean, it was closer to an interception at the top of the jumps by
Yeah.
both players,
Right.
and
Right.
then as they're coming down, Worthy did have control of the ball with one arm pinned against his body, and then the
Right.
tip of the football touches the ground. But you've always heard, ever since the game, I think it was like a Rams player or something where the ball, they called it an incomplete pass. They rule that if you're controlling the ball can touch the ground, and the ball clearly touched the ground in this case. But look, at the end of the day,
It was a
it
flag.
doesn't.
It was a
There
first
was a
down for the
flag.
Chiefs either
Yes,
way.
that's right. That's right. Absolutely, the Chiefs would have gotten the ball, and the way the offense was cooking, honestly, the offense looked really good in this game.
Yes.
They were
Yes.
scoring touchdowns and they were moving the ball. The wide receivers were heavily involved. If I had told you that the Chiefs were going to lose a turnover battle and Travis Kelce was going to have 2 catches for 19 yards, you would have said the Chiefs lose 31-10. I mean,
Yeah.
it would have been
Yes.
an ass kicking, except Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith Schuster, and Hollywood Brown all came up with big time plays. I mean, big time plays for all those guys. DeAndre Hopkins, 1 catch for 11 yards. So between Hopkins and Kelce, they had 3 catches for 30 yards, and the Chiefs win.
Yeah. And not only that, I think I read that this was the Chiefs' best game of the year by success rate. Not surprising considering that
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes had the best dropback success rate of his career in this game.
Yep.
But the
And their most
Chiefs,
points of the season,
the
32.
most
They
points of the
hadn't gone
season,
over 30.
the Chiefs' last three games that they played their starters have been their three best games of the season by
That's
success
a good
rate.
point.
Oh, who would have thought? Who would have
The
thought?
Texans? Really?
What a strange coincidence. Yes, the Texans,
Wow.
and then obviously the
The last game of the season. Yeah.
Steelers, Texans, and then the Bills. Who
Wow.
would have thought that the
Crazy.
Chiefs would be playing their best ball here at the end of the
When it
season,
matters.
going into the
Yeah.
playoffs when it matters? I'm just like my head is spinning over all the
Me
different
too.
angles
Me
that come
too.
through this game. But one of the things that I'm really excited about and really happy for, there are so many guys on this team for a team that the core has been together for a long time. Like there's so much turnover in NFL teams, and there are a lot of guys on this team that are going to get a chance to play for their first championship, and guys that
Yes.
have been in the league for a long time. Charles Omenihu, who got hurt
Yes.
in the AFC Championship game last year,
Hungry dude.
he'll be playing in his first Super Bowl. Kareem Hunt, who the Chiefs cut in 2019 or in 2019 yeah 2019
18.
when
Was
they
it 18?
won. Oh, was it 18? Was
It
it at
was
the end of
18.
the
It was
18th
Pat's
season?
first
That's
year.
right.
It was,
That's right.
yeah.
It was
Yeah.
at the end of the 18th season. Pat's first year
Right.
as a starter, who the Chiefs cut after obviously that video came out of him involved in that assault. Kareem Hunt having a chance to play for his first Super Bowl and really is the de facto starter on this team. I mean, he is the best running
Correct.
back on the team right now.
Looked a
And
lot better than Pacheco did tonight.
you've got DeAndre Hopkins, man, 12 years in the league, playing in his first Super Bowl, his first AFC Championship game, and his first chance to go to
Yep.
the Super Bowl, his
Yep.
first chance to play for a championship. There are so many guys on this team and then on the flip side, you of course have the 2022 draft class that is literally never not played in the
Monsters.
Super Bowl.
9-0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 9-0 in the playoffs for Karlaftis, McDuffie, Pacheco, all of those guys. Just absolute insanity, man. It's crazy to me that we are getting. I mean, you can't take this stuff for granted, but
No.
it's wild to me that the Chiefs won this game. I just
Correct.
I can't get over. I I mean, great. Like even at the very end, obviously when the Chiefs kicked the field goal, you thought
Yeah.
like
I thought they were cooked.
you thought it was going to be just like the 13 seconds game, and the Bills were going to go down and score a
Mm-hmm.
touchdown and walk the Chiefs off.
Mm-hmm.
Steve
I
Spagnuolo
certainly
coming in.
did.
Steve Spagnuolo coming up with his best stuff, of course, on third and fourth down with the season on the line, just like he did last year in overtime against and at 2 minutes left in the Super Bowl against the Niners in overtime to get a stop and kick a field goal
Yep.
against the Niners in the Super Bowl last year. And then, I mean, Pacheco going out of bounds. The Chiefs
Yes.
have the
What's that
Chiefs
kid
have
doing?
the Chiefs have to pick up two first downs. That would have been the game. The Chiefs have to
Yes.
pick up another first down, and they go to Samaje Perine with the season on the line. Samaje Perine, who was a Denver Bronco at the
Yep.
start of the season and
Yep.
was cut by the Denver Broncos, former Bronco, former Cincinnati Bengal, and
Yes.
the third string running back at best on this team,
Sure.
getting the ball with the game on the line for a chance to go to the third straight Super Bowl. You got to love this team, man. It's amazing.
I mean, 8 guys caught a pass tonight. They did what they do a lot of times, which is they spread the ball around. And the 8 catches actually does not include Justin Watson's 2-point conversion because that's not an
Sure,
official
right. Yeah,
catch
that
in the
would be
record. So
a
it
ninth
was
a
nine
ninth
guys
catch.
that caught the ball. Let's quickly address the Eagles, the opponent
Yes,
for the Chiefs
yes,
in Super Bowl
yes.
59. Not only Andy being the all-time leading winner for
Yeah,
both
the winningest coach for
franchises,
both franchises. Yep.
and I mean the Eagles are a wagon. They
Yeah, they are.
are they
They are.
are
They're
really
good.
really moving the ball well. They're running extremely well. Saquon Barkley looks unstoppable. They put up a 55 burger today against Washington, and you know I do think that a team that runs the ball and plays good defense doesn't scare me as much as it does a superstar quarterback. That's just the nature of the NFL these days. I think the Bills would have beaten the Eagles if they had beaten the Chiefs, and I think that the Chiefs match up better with the Eagles than they did with the Bills. And that's a good sign. That's a good thing to start into. I
I mean,
think the experts are going to agree. I'm reading a ESPN article where 10 of their experts, they're all the guys that do all the picks, picked Chiefs or Eagles. What would you guess out of 10 the picks were? Like who,
uh,
the split?
well, let me preface this by saying that stop me if you've heard this one before. A Super Bowl matchup involving, on the one hand, a
Yes. No.
team full of monsters that's completely
Yeah.
loaded on both sides of
Yeah.
the ball,
Yeah.
and then on the other side, a team with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback.
The
Like,
four Eagles and Niners, these two games
I know they're
against each
all
of these teams are insane
shockingly similar. Yes, it
and
is.
really good teams.
And the Chiefs have won all three of the previous matchups. So
Right.
yeah, all that to say that ESPN's pickers should know how to pick this game. Uh, I'm guessing though that it's probably pretty close, maybe like 6-4, six taking the Chiefs, four taking the Eagles.
I actually was expecting either 50-50 or a slight Eagles advantage just because everyone has Chiefs fatigue, but 8 of the 10 picked the Chiefs. And honestly, like
They learned
that's
their
the
lesson.
way they had
Sure.
for the most part, a lot of people picked the Bills in the last round
Well,
and
sure, right. But they
people
have Josh
like to
Allen. I mean,
say they do.
yeah.
They do. And I get it. I believe me, if the Chiefs and Bills played 10 times, I expected that to go 5-5. The Bills are a absolute monster of a team, and the Chiefs are fortunate to get out of that game. But the Chiefs also did execute with more poise than the Bills did. I think that the Bills came out tight. Josh Allen fired 2 right away that Brian Cook got his hands on and could have picked off that were not really close to their intended targets. And I thought the Bills just kind of they didn't really rely on what they do well for a lot of the game. Now, they came out in the second half and they remembered that they're a really good running football team and they shoved it down the Chiefs' throats and they ran it with James Cook and it worked for the most part. They ran all the way down the field and scored, and then the next drive they tried it, but as soon as they took the ball back out of James Cook's hands and into Josh Allen's hands, their offense faltered again. They had a 3rd and 10 at midfield, the play before the 4th and 5. And they threw a tunnel screen to the wide receiver for 5 yards. That to me just was kind of a give up. Like, well,
Yeah.
okay, I guess we're going to go for it on 4th down. Like the Chiefs could be had over the middle of the field. They constantly with
Oh
Mac
my God.
Hollins
We got
or
had
I
a
mean,
lot.
yes, a lot, especially deep 3rd down conversions. They had
Yes.
conversions of 3rd and 8, 9, 12, 13. I mean, they were moving on 3rd down because they had to go vertical and they had to put the ball, in Josh Allen's hands. And then when the game was on the line, I just don't really know what they were thinking there. And part of that is just, you know, Joe Brady might be a decent offensive coordinator, but he's certainly not Andy Reid. It was crazy. I can't believe that the Chiefs won this game, to be honest with you. It
You
was
know,
wild.
it does come back down to coaching. And I did not get to pod with you guys in the lead up to this game, and you did kind of touch on this, but my take on this game, had I been able to share it with our listeners, was just the biggest mismatch in this game every time it happens, and especially in the playoffs, is the coaching staffs in this game. Sean
Yes.
McDermott is not a guy that's prepared to win on the big stage. He's just
Nope. He's not a
he's not
tactician.
he's not a tactician. He gets
Mm-mm.
tight. He's basically like, I mean, Sean McDermott is what Andy Reid used to be in the
Yes.
playoffs, right?
So
Like
I actually told that to the Buffalo Bills podcast because we
yes,
were talking about how he's never won the
yes.
big game. And
And
I was
his
like,
his
look,
clock management is bad, and I mean, like he just gets tight with the game on the line.
he does. He does. And a lot of times these guys' careers at the end of them are they're going to look back on McDermott. And look, if he had beaten the Chiefs today and gone on and won the Super Bowl,
Sure,
no one
you
would have
just
ever
need
brought up a
right.
big game
You
with
just
him
need
ever
one.
again. You need to do it.
Exactly.
You
You
just
just
need to
need
go
one.
do it. And Andy, for the longest time, until he got the best quarterback that's ever breathed air, was a choker. He was a big game choker. He had lost the Super Bowl with the Eagles. He lost 4 NFC championships with the Eagles, and he lost the playoff games with the Chiefs before Mahomes. And then you get Mahomes here, and it works. And now he's won 3 Super Bowls and going for a fourth, which, by the way, I mean, if Andy hasn't cemented himself with just this win as the second greatest head coach of all time behind Bill Belichick, I don't know what else he has to do. I mean, he's beyond Shula and all those guys in almost every postseason category. He's the second all time in wins, and he's tied for second in conference championship wins slash Super Bowl appearances. He's there, man. He's right on Bill's doorstep, and with Bill coaching at North Carolina, where you can't pick up any more NFL wins there, all he has to do is coach a couple more years, and I think Andy's got it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so funny because we talk about all the legacy things that can happen. We do it before the season, we do it before the playoffs, and then
Yep.
you get there and you win the games. And you're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like
Oh, they did it.
this
We said
actually,
if they do it, and then
yeah,
they
you're
did
right. Yeah,
it.
exactly. It is crazy, and I mean, this was a Kansas City versus the world kind of game, and
It was, and it
we
will be
mentioned
for the rest of the
I,
run.
I'm not sure that it will be in the Super Bowl, actually, because I actually do think that now, if it had been Washington or if it had been Detroit
Oh yeah,
or
good point.
it
Good
had
point.
been one
Nobody
of
really
the,
likes Philly.
if it had been one of those teams, there's no question what the national rooting interest would be. Everybody would be rooting against the Chiefs. I have already seen, though, people doing what we used to do when Brady got to the Super Bowl, right? Like it was like,
What?
well, Brady already has. I mean, Brady's legacy is Brady's legacy. It's secured, right? Like
Oh,
at this point, wouldn't we rather have, like all those people, all
Mahomes is
fans
untouchable.
fans of the NFC,
Yeah.
like a quarterback in the NFC, they don't want to see the Eagles win a Super Bowl.
No,
Like,
certainly not the
why do
NFC
they?
East
Why
teams.
why do they care if we win another Super Bowl? It's not going to
Sure.
affect their legacy. It's not
Sure.
going to affect them. I would say
No.
most fans of NFC teams should be rooting for the Chiefs to win this
Well,
matchup.
but does Jalen Hurts have a legacy? Like,
I mean,
is
he
that
does if he wins the
really?
Super Bowl. He's like
Yeah.
he is actually the best quarterback in the NFC if he wins the Super Bowl, just by default, because
Right, because no one else is
there's
any good at
no
all.
there's literally no
Jamie.
one
It's
else in the
Jamie.
NFC,
And yeah.
sure, that has a Super Bowl. I mean, is
Oh
there an
yeah.
active starting quarterback in the
Um,
NFC that has a Super Bowl ring?
well, no, the only actives.
Stafford, I guess.
Oh yeah,
That's
right.
it.
It was under 35. Mahomes is the only one with the ring, and so it's Stafford, Rodgers, Russ are the
And
three
Rodgers and Russ
others.
are
And
nominally in the
Rodgers and Russ
AFC,
are
so
cooked. Also,
and they're
I mean,
cooked and they're sure.
so yeah. I mean, they're really on the doorstep. If Rodgers, Russ, and Stafford, who are all close to retirement, Stafford talked about it after the
Yeah,
Rams
right.
loss. Obviously, Rodgers has said, if I come back with the Jets, it's got to be the right, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, Russ is going to be looking for a job. And it sounds like maybe Pete Carroll and the Raiders are going to be interested in that, which is hilarious and
Sure,
great and everything that I
sure.
love about the NFL. But no, it's really, it's Mahomes' world and everyone else is just living in it. And I, I do think that if you looked at a map of rooting interest for the Super Bowl, I think you would see pockets in Dallas and New York and Washington, the three NFC East rivals
Sure,
that would have the Chiefs, and I think everywhere else other than Kansas City and I mean like Iowa and like places around here Midwest,
sure.
but everywhere that there's no Chiefs Kingdom, I can't imagine any third party neutral observer here is going to want the Chiefs. I mean,
I don't
that's
know,
just how
man.
it goes.
I don't know. I get the take, and I certainly understand it.
Is it
I just
too
happened.
much on Twitter? Am I too much on Twitter? Like,
Well, so but this is where I'm also getting the stuff from Twitter too. Like I literally saw, so I just clicked on the trending topics. I saw that
Sure.
Broncos country was trending, and I was like, this is good. Like
Why?
it's right after the
Right
game.
now?
Let's see what Broncos country is tweeting about. And I literally saw somebody using the Broncos country hashtag, and maybe it didn't delve deeply into his profile. It could have been an inside job.
Yeah, sure.
Just like 9/11. Shout out Sean McDermott. Um, Listen, this guy basically was like, I mean, at this point, I kind of want the three-peat to happen, right? Like, I want to root for greatness, and this is a Broncos
Interesting.
fan that's
That's
tweeting
really
this, right?
interesting.
Like,
I could never say that.
the fact that we are in the Super Bowl now with a chance to do something that has never been done in the history of NFL, it's kind of like, I mean, it is Michael Jordan stuff, right? Like,
Yep.
Michael Jordan had haters until he converted all of his haters into fans, right? Like, like
Yeah, that's fair.
Michael Jordan became Michael Jordan because he just beat everybody's teams, everybody's favorite teams, and then everybody's just like, I guess I'm a Bulls fan now.
Right.
Like, why
Right.
would I root for the Pistons or whoever if they're just going to get beaten by the Bulls
It's more
the
fun to cheer
finals?
for a winner.
It's more fun to cheer for a
And
winner.
we did see Patriots fans kind of grow in numbers over the course of their dynasty.
Yeah,
I mean, I
absolutely.
certainly saw a lot
Absolutely
of
we
kind
did.
of tag on bandwagon fans, for lack of a better term. And I think right now is like the pinnacle of the hate. Like they can't get any. You can't find someone who hasn't hated the Chiefs yet that's going to start hating the Chiefs.
I agree.
You've either already hated them for a while now, or it's not going to be able to work on you. And so I do think that we'll probably, especially if they win this one and keep being good for a while, which certainly seems like they will, then I do think we'll start to see kind of more of the tide shift towards the Chiefs. This is a great Josh Dubo tweet just now. Patrick Mahomes has trailed in the fourth quarter in 9 playoff games. He has come back to win 6 of those 9 and forced overtime in the other 2 before losing. The only game in
Crazy.
there that he did not
Sure.
come back and at least tie it is Tampa. He has a 132.2 rating with 5 touchdown passes and a touchdown run when down 1 through 8 points in the fourth quarter or overtime of a playoff game. Leading scores on 13 out of 14 drives.
Hmm. That's
That's
it's
crazy.
it's he has
He
never
is the
lost a
most,
playoff game to anyone other than Tom Brady or Joe Burrow. And Joe
he
Burrow's
hasn't, and
gotten
he's
him.
never
Joe
lost
Burrow's gotten him
earlier.
once.
Right.
So,
Right.
I
And
mean,
he's never lost earlier than the overtime of the AFC Championship. And he's the most back against the wall athlete I've ever seen.
you
I
know,
mean, it's crazy.
we mentioned this and we haven't even thrown this out there, but I think I picked
Throw it.
this in the draft, but he just tied John Elway for Super Bowl appearances with
Yeah, he
5.
did. Yeah, he did.
So, and
Yeah, he's second all time.
I think Elway and maybe Bradshaw went to a 5th one. I think those are the only 2 guys besides obviously Brady to play in 5 Super Bowls, and now Mahomes is there. I mean, he's second all time in everything now behind Brady. I mean, he's right there, and we'll obviously have the conversation of where he stacks up against Brady after this win if the Chiefs complete the three-peat. We talked about it before the season. I mean, like a three-peat is worth more than the sum of its parts. We
I
know
agree.
this.
I
We
agree. It's probably worth 4
historically
Super Bowls.
yeah, it's at least worth an extra. And me and Brady talked about the undefeated season that he would have traded a
Hmm.
couple of rings for
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
19-0
I think an undefeated
season.
season would be worth 2. Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, I mean, it just is. It's going to be
Um,
crazy. We have 2 weeks to prepare for this matchup with the Eagles. Like this is, it's history, man. It's
BT
crazy.
Dubs, John Elway is the only quarterback who had played in 5 Super
Oh,
Bowls other
okay.
than
There you
Tom
go.
Brady. So it's
So
now Elway and Mahomes right there. And unless Patrick retires after this year or never makes a Super Bowl again, which both of those are as equally unlikely to ever
yeah,
happen,
yeah. There's no
then
chance.
things are really moving in the right direction.
They really are moving in the right direction. My brother was just texting me, and he's a very casual NFL fan. And in fact, has told me in the past, I think as recently as this year, that like he's like, I'm kind of tired of winning. Like, let some other people win one. And I'm like, no,
No, shut up.
this is not how
No.
this happens. Anyway, he's on our NFL right now, and he said
Ooh, I
his
can't do that.
favorite quote from the comments was, "Why don't other teams simply bribe the refs too? Are they stupid?" I mean,
It's a great point.
yeah, it's a great
It's a
point.
great point.
Like if we're just buying the refs, I mean, like, there are other owners with more money than Clark Hunt. There are teams in bigger markets than Kansas City. why don't these other teams just bribe the refs? Why don't
Yep.
they, why don't they date Taylor Swift? Like, why can't they be as cool as us? And the answer is they hate us because they ain't us. They can't do it.
Yep.
They can't be
Yep.
us.
Yeah, no, they can't. It's the whole narrative is really, really bad and dumb in general, for all the reasons that we've talked about, including that the NFL already makes so much money without rigging it that there's no reason to rig it. They're
Right.
the marginal gain, and first of all, again, I've hammered this to death, but when the ratings go up, the only people that benefit are the advertisers on the TV station that is playing the game. They are the only people that make more money. The NFL signs the media rights deal for 10 years. They're locked in for $100 billion through 2033. It doesn't
Right.
make sense. The money doesn't flow that way. And people just think, I mean, you know what they think. You know why they think it. You know they're butthurt. I get it, man. I've gone through periods of my life where there's another team that dominates the sport and it's frustrating and stupid. But when it's your team and when there is no like foul play, which first of all, again, the Patriots were caught cheating multiple times.
Yeah.
They
Yep.
actually cheated. There has been no smoke to any of this fire with the Chiefs, but it's okay. I'm not going to let the narrative ruin this excellent, hilarious, fun time. We will look back on this forever. You and I will. We will be old men and be able to play our podcast when we're bored and listen to us talk about just how amazing it is to be Chiefs fans.
Winning the AFC for another year, fending off the Titans of the AFC for another year.
Which is crazy.
Joe Burrow couldn't even make it into the playoffs, and
No.
he
And
played
no one
like an
else could make it
MVP.
out of the playoffs.
He couldn't. He played like an MVP this year. He actually is
Yeah.
an MVP finalist. Josh Allen couldn't make it past, or Lamar Jackson couldn't make it past Josh Allen, and Josh Allen for the fourth time in 5 years couldn't make it past Patrick Mahomes of the Chiefs. It's crazy. Like we talked about this even just at the start of the playoffs, how close we were to a tipping point, which seems insane to say because obviously Mahomes is so far ahead of the pack.
No, I
But
agree.
like it just takes one guy beating you and then winning one ring to sort of
Correct.
like, I mean, people have such short attention spans when it comes to rooting for the NFL and in how they assess the NFL. And we
Hmm.
had to hear all of the last couple of weeks, like Josh Allen played better than Patrick Mahomes this year, and Lamar Jackson played better than Patrick Mahomes this year. Both of those guys are better than Patrick Mahomes right now. And then the playoffs start, and Patrick Mahomes wins again, and he beats whichever one of those two guys is able to get far enough in the playoffs to take him on, which Lamar has only done once. Josh Allen at least has done it 4 times, except
And
that
twice in the AFC Championship. I mean,
exactly, and twice in the championship game, which Lamar has only made it to once.
right.
Burrow made it to the championship game twice, and
Twice.
was able to beat Mahomes once. And to be frank, like think of what that one playoff win for Burrow is doing
Has
for
done.
him in the picture, right?
It made him.
Like
It made him.
yeah, it made it.
Absolutely.
It's literally the only thing he has going for him over Josh Allen
It's the only thing
or
he's ever
Lamar Jackson.
accomplished.
It's the only
It's
thing he has
literally
ever
it.
accomplished. It's literally the pinnacle of his career, and it's the pinnacle of any team that's played the Chiefs' career because
Yes.
Brady,
Yes.
he's old news. The Bucks, the Patriots, they're long gone. We
The
are
broadcaster?
yeah, right, exactly. Tom Brady, the broadcaster, who's terrible again today, by the way.
Yeah, he wasn't good. Yeah.
It is what it is. He's going to be calling Patrick Mahomes in 2 weeks,
Yeah. He
playing in the
is.
Super Bowl, which is going
Yeah.
to be, it's going to be a wild time, and it's going to be really interesting to hear. I'm sure him engaging with the media in the run up to that game. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting. We've got yet another Super Bowl media week. We've got Andy Reid and the Eagles connection again. You've got the Kelsey brothers. One of them is now retired, of course, but
Sure. They'll be all
you
over. I mean,
you've got a house divided in the Kelsey household. You've got Kylie
sure.
Kelsey, diehard Eagles fan, who will
Yep.
never wear another team's jersey, and then you got Jason, who's now retired,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
it'll be really interesting to see where Jason's loyalties end up
I
now
don't
that
think
he no
it'll be
longer
that.
actively plays for the Eagles. You think he's going to be?
He'd burned too many bridges. He's got it. Even if in his heart he thinks I want to support Trav, he's gonna come out publicly as rooting for the
I think
Eagles.
you.
I think
I'm
he's
sure he
even
will
told
too.
Trav in private, like, hey man, like I hope you win the game, but I can't crush every
Yeah,
fan
no,
that
that's
wears a
fair.
Jason Kelsey jersey
Right.
and to root
No, that's
against him.
fair.
But
That's fair.
point is, it's gonna be a lot of drama moving forward. The Eagles have uh, every chance to win this game as the Bills did. They are extremely good and hungry. They just lost the Super Bowl 2 years ago to the Chiefs. This is fresh in their minds. And they're gonna whoever comes out of this Super Bowl 59, is going to earn every single second of it. And, you know, if it's the Chiefs, the three-peat's locked. It's great. They're the greatest dynasty of all time. They already have the greatest three
Yeah,
consecutive
right.
seasons of all time, even if
Yes.
they lose this game.
Yes.
And if they do lose the game, and I shouldn't even really bring this up, but like, don't lose sight of the fact that this is as close as anyone's ever gotten to winning three Super Bowls in a row, and that this is still an unbelievable run and an unbelievable dynasty, and they would be 3-2 in the Super Bowl, and all this stuff that, which is fine, which is a good. You're above 500 in your
Yeah, it's
Super Bowl
good.
appearances.
Yeah,
I
it's great.
mean, they are now 5-2 in the AFC Championship in these seven
It's
AFC
extremely
championships
good.
that they've played in, which is very, very, very good. And you know, you can't take the Chiefs are playing with house money. I know it's a lot of pressure to go for the three-peat. I get it. But like there's no knocking what this franchise has done over the last 7 years if they happen to lose this game. They are undeniable. And so I'm feeling pretty good as far as like of course I'll be stressed in 2 weeks. Of course I will. But like I feel like this is the best spot they could be in just from a vibe standpoint. This was unbelievable tonight.
Yeah, and really, losing to the Eagles, this hopefully will be the last time we even talk about this.
I know. I
This
know.
is
I just have to.
obviously this is an unstructured, you just sort of letting out of emotion after a big
Uh-huh.
victory, and this is just where kind of our minds turn to. There's no shame in losing to this Eagles team. The only thing that would give me any pause about losing to the Eagles is the fact that their coach is Nick Sirianni, and that
Yeah,
would be
he sucks.
very annoying. But like Saquon Barkley is cool.
It's awesome.
I
Yeah.
still have a lot of affinity for the Eagles. There's still a lot of shared
Me
blood
too.
there between those franchises.
Me too.
You've got the Kelsey connection. You've got the Andy Reid connection. It's
I
really
really
just
like
Nick
AJ
Sirianni.
Brown. I
AJ
mean,
Brown, sure.
he's
Saquon,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. They've
Jalen
got a lot
Carter's a
of
monster.
they've got a
They
lot of
really have a lot of good fun.
extremely cool, fun
Hmm.
players,
Hmm.
and it's a cool franchise. Go Birds, etc. It's
Yeah,
always
except
sunny
for
in
2 weeks from now.
Philadelphia.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, we have
exactly.
to bring
I
our bits
mean,
back where we maybe don't do Always
oh
Sunny. We did
man,
something
yeah,
two
we are
years
gonna
ago where
have
we
to
kind
do
of
something
eschewed
else with that. Yeah, we're
the
gonna have to go back to
Philadelphia
that.
stuff.
Yeah, we are gonna have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
we're gonna
I'll
have to get
go.
away from the Philly stuff.
I'll reference
Uh,
the tape and see what we did since we can do
sure,
that
yeah,
because it
we'll
was not too long
we'll run it
ago.
back. It's funny because like you said right before we jumped on here to record, like we are professionals at this.
Yeah,
We have done this before. We have the
yeah, a
reps.
lot.
And I was thinking about this when they played the commercial right after, the game dropped. They used the audio of Mitch from last year or the year before that. I'm actually
Yeah,
not
because
sure
they
which
could
one
just
it
reach
was.
into the bucket.
How,
And,
how
yeah.
could I possibly know which call it is? But he basically, they already have a
That's great.
call of Mitch saying, the Chiefs won the AFC. They're going back to the Super Bowl. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, they're going back to the Super Bowl. Like
It's like
it's
stock
it,
footage.
yeah, exactly. It's not AI. It's literal stock footage that they can just pull out of the
That's
vault,
great.
and they can run that commercial immediately after the game ends without any need to actually pull any audio from the
Uh-huh.
live game broadcast by
That's
Mitchell
really funny.
for this game. And it's the same with us. We can go back and pull our tape from a couple of years ago. I mean, we probably could just skip podcasting altogether. The takes are probably still
I,
pretty good.
I
The
was gonna
Eagles have a
say it
stacked
would.
roster. We have Patrick Mahomes.
Yes, it would be pretty funny for us to start one of these pods in the next week or two with the same audio from 2 years
Sure.
ago and
Yeah, right.
see when people start to realize that it's a different Chiefs Eagles
Sure.
Super Bowl that we're talking about. But
Yeah.
yeah, eternally blessed and grateful and happy that this has happened to our favorite team. This has been a dream come true already. It's already, if the Chiefs never played another football game, the greatest sports experience that you could really have as a fan. I mean, these 7 years have been unbelievable, and they're on the doorstep of making it to where no one will ever be able to touch it. That they are literally on the doorstep of becoming immortal. And I hope it's not lost on the players. It's certainly not lost on us as fans how big of a deal it is in this modern NFL to play for a chance to win three Super Bowls in a row and have a fourth one already in your back pocket from a couple years before that. This run has been silly and stupid, and they've never lost before the AFC Championship overtime. And the first time they do, it's going to be the biggest shock in the world to us. But it'll probably be for another. Probably won't be until Patrick Mahomes retires.
Yeah, I was prepared for it a couple years ago in the 13 seconds game. I
Yeah, me too.
I was
Big
prepared
time.
for it in the third quarter tonight. I was thinking about what I would say on social media and
Yeah,
take a little break and I
yeah,
mean like
I
it
know.
would have been relatively easy to give the Bills their kudos in this game. The Chiefs really did. I mean, the Chiefs were the reason this game was close. The Chiefs almost beat the Chiefs. The
Yeah, that's
Chiefs,
fair.
the Chiefs. I saw somebody talking about Buffalo forcing a turnover in 9 straight games, and I said, forced in quotes, because obviously they did nothing to force the
Botched a
turnover that they
handoff.
got in this one. The Chiefs, they really put the Bills in a position to win this game, not the Bills. And
I agree.
then the Chiefs decided that they were just gonna win the game like they always do. And here we are. It's crazy. As we're sort of winding down here, I did see a stat that you may have seen, but this is just absolutely wild. Playoff games above zero point 0.5 EPA per play, which is
Yeah.
like, I mean, that's like one of the greatest games in NFL history. You're every play, you're basically generating a half point for your team. Uh, in first place, Patrick Mahomes, he has 7 playoff games above zero point 0.5 EPA per play. In second place all time, 5 players tied with 3, which is
Jeez.
less than half. And those players are Tom Brady, Josh
Oh,
Allen,
he was good. Yeah,
Peyton
he's good.
Manning,
Yep.
Kurt Warner, and Russell Wilson. In
Five of the greatest playoff
Yeah,
performers of all time.
yes, exactly. And they have less than half of Mahomes' games above zero point 0.5 EPA per play in a playoff game. I mean, like, he's the greatest clutch performer of all
Ever.
time. And
Ever.
let's also not lose sight of the fact is we have not mentioned this uh as a scrambler, obviously, but
Yeah.
I read that these were like 2 of 3 designed runs that we've ever run for him in the
Yeah.
playoffs,
It was
essentially.
awesome.
And we scored 2 touchdowns on them tonight.
Super
You know,
Bowl 54
yep.
had a designed
The
run for a
option,
touchdown.
yes, it
Yep.
did. Yep,
Yep.
little option play.
Um, the Kelsey lead block on the one today on the 10-yarder was
Just so
just
juicy, just
sexy.
perfect.
Mahomes has more Super Bowl appearances himself than 19 NFL franchises. 19 in a 32 team
Yeah,
league.
that's pretty good.
Nine over half of them have not been to the Super Bowl in their entire franchise existence. That's insane. That's insane.
It
It's not even tied with those 19. They have 4 or less. 19 teams have been to the Super Bowl 4 or fewer times.
it's absolutely crazy, and it's crazy that I mean you've got I mentioned the first time players. I think I left off Hollywood Brown,
Yeah, he was
who I
awesome.
I just reminded myself in his feed. He was tweeting back in February like, "Get me to a Super Bowl someday, man." And here it is. He signed with the Chiefs, and after missing virtually the entire regular season. First 2 plays of the game in the AFC Championship game are to Hollywood Brown. He plays a huge role in this game. I mean, it is crazy how, the nucleus is always the same. You've got Chris Jones, you've got Travis Kelce, you've got
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, and you've got Andy Reid. But the parts that come in and sort of, gravitate around that nucleus, that gravitational pull, the guys that come into those orbits. We already mentioned him, but Sabanje P. Ryan with the game sealing
Yeah.
first down, right? Like, you go back to like Daryl, or not Daryl, but Damian Williams a couple years ago in the first Super Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
obviously coming in as backup when they cut Kareem Hunt, and then he ends up, with the game sealing run, running to immortality. It's just so crazy when you root for a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, just the guys you pull into your orbit and who become legends of not just the franchise but legends in NFL history because they're a part of this epoch in history. Just people like a Damian Williams, a guy like Hollywood Brown, who like me, DeAndre Hopkins is a Hall of Famer. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame no matter what. But like a guy like Hollywood Brown, he's not probably not going to be in the Hall of Fame. He might have a Pro Bowl season or two in his career, but like these moments,
Mm-hmm.
these are a chance for guys that are useful players or role players in the NFL to literally gain immortality. And now all 53 on the roster have a chance to do that. For the ones that, I mean, obviously, most of the guys in that roster have already done it,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
also
The
crazy to say.
veterans.
But you
Yeah.
got a lot of guys in here that are playing for an opportunity at football immortality, and
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be crazy in 2 weeks to see the Chiefs on that stage in New Orleans, just as they predicted a year ago
Man.
after winning the Super Bowl. And we're back, and here it is.
What are they going to say on the podium when they win a third Super Bowl in a row?
I
Are
hope they
they?
throw. I hope they throw out reverse Buffalo. I know we've been
Oh, they'll
trying.
never do that. They
I
love
know,
Buffalo
I know,
also.
I know,
I
I know,
mean,
I know,
but
I know, I know. They
we
would
will
never
certainly
disrespect Buffalo that way, but
we will
we will
certainly
be
push that
psycho
as
on the
hard as we
podium.
can. I just don't know. You know, it's one thing. Last year, you could tell there was gas left in the tank for especially Travis is really who I'm thinking of. Pat's of course
Sure,
going to say
of
it. We'll be
course.
back next year because Pat's got forever to go. But like, if they talk to Travis after this three-peat, if he says one word about coming back and doing it again next year, this whole place is going to go
Mm,
nuts. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
of course, I'm thinking a little bit ahead, but it's just such a funny idea to all this stress and all this talk about the three-peat, and it's really been stressful as a fan for the last, since the game started. That
Yeah.
we knew the Chiefs were going for it, we knew what was on the line. If they win three in a row, and come back next year and have Xavier Worthy and have they'll bring back one of like Hollywood or Hopkins or whatever. They'll
Maybe
have
both of them.
guys.
I
They'll
mean,
come
yeah,
back next year ready to go, regardless of if they plan quote unquote on winning the Super Bowl or not. And like then we'll talk about all year, like oh my God, they're going for four in a row. They're
yeah,
like it's just
yeah,
never gonna end. It's just never gonna end, and it's the greatest.
yeah, yeah. Yep. It's probably the greatest franchise in sports history. I mean,
Certainly up there.
if they
It's
put the
in the
bow on it
conversation.
in 2 weeks, I don't know how you could even argue to the contrary. It would be the greatest accomplishment in the history of American professional sports, and therefore, no offense to our neighbors in the world, but therefore the most important accomplishment in the history of world
Ever.
sport. So,
Yep, you're right.
it is what it is, and yeah, can't wait to break it down with you. Can't wait to break it down with our friend Randy, who will be back for our midweek pod this week.
Cool.
And hopefully we will all be together again, podcasting about your AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. It's always sunny in Chiefs Kingdom.